Hey guys, what's going on? This is Andrew here today, and it's quite a surreal day because just yesterday was my last day at GameStop. I wasn't fired. I didn't quit for any bad reasons. I just got a new full-time job, and I'm going back to school to continue a career in the fire safety industry. So, unfortunately, I had to gut GameStop out since I'm going to be working full-time and I'm going to be in school. And unfortunately, I just wouldn't have had time for another part-time job without basically killing myself. So, to start off this video, I just want to say thank you to all of my coworkers that got me through all of this. My managers, the GAs below me, the SGAs I got to work with, the ASLs I got to work with, the people that were under me when I was ASL and store leader. Thank all of you for everything, and especially the staff that I worked with this time around, my district manager and the people that I got to work with at my last store. Just thank you, everybody. You were all incredible. It was such a blast working with you guys. Despite some of the things I think about the company in general, you guys are the reason why it ended up being a positive experience for me. You guys made the place an amazing place to be, and on top of that, you made it an amazing place for customers. When there were things happening with GameStop kind of causing a bunch of restrictions and making some interesting policies, we were able to stick together and show our sympathy and basically just be real people and not corporate little assholes. So it was great. I loved all you guys, except for Mr. Mosquito Joe from the Smith Haven Mall GameStop in New York for telling everybody I went to the mental hospital when I was suicidal. So thanks for that, Mosquito Joe, man. I figured since you put my information out there, I don't care about putting your information out there. So this goes out to you, you piece of garbage. Anyway, everybody else, thank you for everything. You were incredible people. It was quite a blast to basically just work with you guys in general. So initially I was going to do all of this video in one take from the back of my head, and I still think I'm going to do it all in one take because my thoughts are a lot more organized ever since I started my medications, which is absolutely incredible. But I did need to make a list right here of what topics to start on and the order of topics I should go in order for, because I just spent 40 minutes talking and it came out like shit. So I wasn't satisfied with it. It's 3 hours until my fiance comes home from work, so I think I can get this done way before that happens just by staying organized. So before getting into the actual topics, I just want to start off by saying my experience at GameStop was actually a very, very positive one. In terms of working there and having awesome coworkers and doing awesome things, I did everything that I set out to do as a GameStop employee. Literally everything I set out to do. My main goal was to finally experience a midnight release, which I hosted multiple of. It was to learn what customers wanted in games. So when I became a game dev, which is not going to happen anymore, but know what people wanted in games, learn more about the industry, and how the events are going by being there firsthand and seeing what's going on with sales and everything. I followed plenty of gaming news, but I wanted to be there firsthand to basically be able to see what was going on. Just doing genuinely well at the job, getting manager experience, having it be a positive career choice that would basically move me forward in life if I wanted to do any kind of career path with that kind of experience. Just the general gaming knowledge, meet awesome people, interact with awesome customers, have awesome coworkers to work with, stuff like that. And funny enough, my last goal was to sell Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the Nintendo 64. I don't know why that was such a big goal for me, but it was sitting in my store for like 6 months, and at like the 3-month point, I was like, I'm going to sell this game if it's the last thing I do. And about a month, or maybe it was 2 weeks. I think I was at my 2 weeks, if I remember correctly, when I put my 2 weeks in, that I actually ended up selling it. My manager made a joke the exact same day, not even 10 minutes prior, right before he left. Oh, you're not going to sell it, just like joking. And then literally someone actually bought it from me, and I took a picture with them. I took a freaking picture with them because I was so excited. And all my coworkers were like, oh, stuff like that. But genuinely, I had such a good experience. All the negative things I say in this video have nothing to do with the people that I worked with in the slightest. Anything, well, except for Matt from Mosquito Joe. He's a piece of garbage. But everybody else, there's nothing negative to say about that, and actually being able to work the job really brought me forward, and gave me a lot of career paths and opportunities. I mean, the only reason I got my most recent job is because I had manager experience from working at GameStop for all that time. So let's go. It actually got me somewhere. I never knew it would, but hey, it did. So let's actually get into the whole timeline of everything in order and just my whole experience at GameStop as a whole. So when I first started kind of thinking about working there, I don't even think I was necessarily thinking about working there at the time, because I mainly worked with my dad over summers, and then my dad would pay for my school, and then I would just work with him over the summers and just go back to school with no job and have no income. But one day I was shopping. I was a frequent shopper, by the way, guys. By this point, I was a huge collector. I had all the next-gen consoles. I mean, I had been playing games very, very, like, a huge variety of games since I was like 13 years old. I've been gaming since the young days of my life, 2 years old, beating Halo 2. So at this point, like, I had been a very frequent shopper. I had heard a lot of things about GameStop. I watched a lot of Camelot's videos, so I never thought of actually going and getting the job. But one day I went in and bought a ton of Xbox 360 games, and I had someone there. I'm not going to say any names in the video, really, because I don't know. I was mixing saying some and not saying any at all, minus Matt. But I got to the point where it was just kind of unorganized. So I'm just going to stick with no names and kind of just give code names or whatever. Not like code names, but sort of little nicknames to just categorize them. So I go in here, and I decided to buy another set of games for the Xbox 360, because at this time, GameStop was cutting back on retro. They didn't care about the old consoles. They just wanted to be all modern. We had so many games at one point that we literally threw out, which was actually insane. We had so many penny outs that they called it during that era. But I went in and basically just bought like 30 or 40 Xbox 360 games because they were all super cheap. I went up to the counter. They convinced me to sign up for the Pro membership due to how much points I was getting and the $5 coupons that would basically give me a free game every month with what was going on and just all the deals and everything that was going on. And they convinced me. And while I was there, I was like, hey, you know, this was kind of more of a joke and just something I thought in the back of my head, because I'd always ask people this just in case I thought of it in the back of my head. I was like, hey, are you guys hiring? And the GA who was behind the counter, basically the ranks go from GA, which is just a standard employee that can't be alone in the store, like can't run the store alone, close, open, do specific tasks. There's the SGA, which is sort of like a manager on duty, which is still below like the actual managers and stuff. But if the store needs to be run, they can run it alone and be in charge of the GA and whatever. So almost like an assistant manager in a way, very similar task to assistant manager. So the jump to assistant manager really wasn't huge. Assistant manager basically just assists the store leader with his tasks, you know, schedule making, managing the store, interviews, just basically every task that a store leader would do, just assists him on it while he's still under the store leader and incorporating the decisions that the store leader is making. They can cooperate together. Corporate still comes down on both of them to make sure things are okay, but it's mainly the store leader's decisions that you're enforcing. And then you got store leader, who's basically just in charge of the store. Basically, the big leader of all of our stuff is typically the district manager, the DM, as I'm going to say. A district manager basically runs all the stores in the district. And what's cool about GameStop that I always liked is that the stores are all kind of connected in a way in your district. You are constantly communicating with all of them to the point where they even let you work at multiple stores if you want extra hours, or if someone's like down an employee due to like some kind of someone quit or someone called out, they will ask you if you can work at the other store, and it's always optional. It's not required, by the way. It is not required to work at other stores, but if you want to, they actually give you the opportunity to do that, which I always thought was super cool about GameStop, because I know there's a lot of companies that are a little weary with stuff like that, but there was something like that. So the district manager, like I said, is the one that basically runs like everything in your district. Then, you know, once you start getting above district managers, where it gets like really corporate, like regional to an extent, maybe just they're running like a huge part of GameStop at that point. Not really coming down on a lot of DMs, but there's plenty of DMs that they have to work with. And then pretty much right after regional, it's like, wow, this is super, super corporate and like super, 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 super important people that are literally making the business decisions for the company. Not the people that are basically running the stores and enforcing what the company is telling them to do. It's people who are literally making decisions at that point, deciding whether they want to close your store, deciding whether a place is profitable, deciding on policies, deciding on specific tasks for the district, for the districts, this company, just all stuff like that. So basically it goes all the way up to regional, and that's about as far as you can go in terms of being like a GameStop employee at that point, in terms of like one that works with the actual retail stores in real time. So there's that. So back to the story. Basically, one of the GAs was working behind the counter, sold me all those games, got me on the membership. I just asked him kind of casually, I was like, hey, you guys hiring? He's like, actually, we are. We just lost 2 key holders. One just transferred to another store because it was closer to their house, and the DM confirmed it. And then one person, I think, quit or something. Something along those lines. Someone quit. I don't exactly remember what the situation was, but that person actually ended up being my assistant manager later down the line, which we'll talk about. But basically, he was like, yeah, they quit. So if you want to put an application online, we can look through the applications and see if you're gonna get a call back. And at this point, I'm like, they're probably not going to give it, but I'll put one in anyway. So I'm not expecting a call back at all at this point, guys, because I have zero experience in retail. Mine is like a supermarket, but you're not selling anything during that. You're not really doing anything crazy at a supermarket. You're just ringing things up, which since I was front end and I was just ringing up groceries, there really wasn't much responsibility except to keep the, cash consistent, stuff like that. So really wasn't many managerial things I had to do. And then my other job was working as a drafter for my dad over the summer, which has nothing to do with retail. Just basically taking orders and just drawing shit up. So nothing that was really associated with GameStop. So I actually got a call back and got an interview scheduled. My manager was like desperate to find somebody because they were so short-staffed. They had the store manager, no assistant manager, a key holder, and a GA. Well, key holder being SGA. A store manager, a SGA, and a GA. So they were super short-staffed. It was basically one person would run one day, the next person would run the rest of the next day. One person would run one day, one person would run the next of the day. So they were getting burnt out. Like, obviously so. Like, and plus, they really don't want, as a manager, they really don't want you working more than like 40 hours a week. Overtime was like maybe by like 4 hours at most. They eventually cut down on overtime, which I'll talk about later. But at the time, like, there's only so much hours you can work, and especially when you're a key holder, they want to limit you too, because past a certain point, they were afraid people were going to start asking for benefits with the amount of hours that they were getting. And I could have done the same thing, but I didn't because I was trying to get promoted. But anyway, kind of off the point. So yeah, they were getting screwed. They had a lot of just stress going in there. So he's looking for anybody. He's looking for anyone at this point. So I go in for my interview, and he knew I had no experience in this stuff, but he asked me like, why GameStop? And I guess I gave him a good enough answer. At the time, I was planning to go away to school to be a game dev. That was my ultimate goal at that point. I told him all of that, and I told him like stuff about how I wanted to learn about how the game industry is by being there firsthand. I wanted to interact with customers. I thought it'd be a really fun thing because video games are my passion. He asked me like what type of games I play, and I think the thing that sold it honestly was me saying, I have every console. I'm not just specific to one platform. I'm not like a fanboy of one or a fanboy of another. I take games for what they are. I'm open-minded to trying something else. So I'm open-minded to learning about anything. I'm very tech savvy in terms of, well, I guess to an extent of what I've done tech-wise. I understand how games work. I understand how to troubleshoot. I understand how to work with hardware. So I think that is ultimately what got me in the door. My manager, I guess, thought that it would be good for the company to have someone that had some knowledge on the stuff that basically wasn't just like confined to having little knowledge. So it worked out in my favor in that regard. I had every next-gen console. I was a big retro guy. I knew old stuff. I relatively knew what people liked. I knew about the gaming industry a lot since I was watching YouTube videos plenty. So I think that ultimately got us in. And the other guy must have had a really good interview too. My other coworker who got hired alongside me, who I love that dude. Super, super cool. Funny enough, for a long time, he was considered good SGA. I was considered bad SGA, which we'll get into. But my manager called me back and said, hey, so I was only supposed to choose one, but you guys both had an amazing interview, and I really wanted to choose both of you. So we're just going to have your district manager interview, and we'll see what he thinks. I'm pushing two of you through to talk to him, and both of us must have done relatively well because we got the job. So now, I guess the next topic is I started off kind of shabby. I actually almost got fired. I very much started off slow. I knew a lot about stuff, and my salesmanship was pretty good, but I had a major issue with directions at the time, unfortunately. I had untreated ADHD, untreated anxiety. It was to a point where, like, I was constantly all over the place, and I never noticed this before. I knew I had ADHD, but I didn't know how bad of the extent it was when I actually had to do so many tasks at once, because this, at this point, was the hardest thing I had to do. Like, really had to keep things super organized and do things in a system and really just stick to that system and not kind of improvise. This was something I really had to, like, get down. So I started off kind of shabby, and understandably so. My manager was getting pretty frustrated at that, which I would have been too. I can't blame him. I really can't. I love that guy too. We kind of started off a little shabby, kind of being on each other's nerves. Maybe didn't like each other very much, but towards like the middle end of it, things got a whole lot better, and him and I got along really well, and we appreciated each other and really felt like we changed each other's lives in a good way. He always said that I gave him patience. I always said that he woke me up and taught me discipline and whatever it was. He was almost like a father. It was kind of funny. But yeah, so in the beginning, things weren't going very well. And he pulled me in the back room one day and was like, all right, what is going on? I don't even know if you should keep this job. Do you want to get demoted or anything like that? I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess I can, but I don't know. He's like, I don't even know if you'd be good being demoted either, because we still have to order you around and you're not doing the tasks that even a GA could do. So I was like, So I was like, he knew I was having mental issues or whatever, but he looked at it as an excuse, which honestly, to an extent, I understood too. I wasn't managing any of that stuff. I was just leaving it undiagnosed and just saying, making an excuse, just saying, it's because of my ADHD or my anxiety or stuff like that. So he basically said, I was going to put you on the schedule this week, but I want to train one of my GAs into keyholder. She actually ended up declining the promotion, she said, and he says, I'm going to put you on this day in 2 weeks. This could very well be your last day. Get your shit together. Get some sleep. Really think over things. Maybe talk to your family, talk to your friends, see if there's anything that they've noticed about your character that you can improve on. I did think he maybe overstepped a little bit in this regard, but either way, it did make me look into myself, and I think ultimately that's why I started like really helping myself to an extent. But regardless, anyway, he basically just said that could very well be your last day, so do your best to not make it like that. So essentially, I went home. I was super upset about that. I was like, damn, am I really gonna lose GameStop? How am I gonna get into the game industry if I can't even handle a sales job? Like I was so down. I was depressed. It was like one of the worst feelings I ever had. Super down, super sad. So like I said, my schedule was changed, and it was supposed to be about 2 weeks out that I was going to be on the schedule one more time. I had an absolute miracle happen. 3 days after that call, my manager calls me, and he says, hey, the store that he used to work at, like I said, all the stores were kind of connected in a way for everyone knew each other. One of the stores that he used to work at reached out to him and asked if there were any key holders that wanted any extra training hours, or because they knew that he was short-staffed. And hey, do we need any extra training hours? Is there anybody that might want to get some extra hours and jump on board? So he called me. My manager called me and he said, is that something you'd be willing to try? This could very much help you. I know the guy over there. I know the girl over there. They're both really good at training. I'm a new store leader, so I might not know to the extent as much as they do. So I think they can maybe sort out some issues. They have a shift open tomorrow. Would you be willing to go there? And this was at the Smith Haven Mall GameStop. At the time, I'm working at Rocky Point in Long Island, New York. So I said, sure. I was a little nervous because it was a mall store, and I was told all the time by people that I worked with that like working at a mall store is like hell because of how fast-paced you got to be, how you got to basically always be on top of things due to the foot traffic, just stuff like that. It scared me a little bit, but I got there and pretty much right off the bat got along with everybody that was there. I had there was the assistant manager and the store leader, guy and a girl, that really like buckled down on the training, especially the assistant manager that sat down with me to really teach me everything. Taught me a lot of sales tactics, taught me a lot of organizational skills, taught me how to count out the registers effectively because I was super slow doing this initially. Just taught me a lot of useful stuff. And something he noticed was that I knew a lot about the stuff and products, and that my sales numbers were super, super good. That I was actually like able to have a good salesman mindset. So he said, here, you seem like you have like a natural salesmanship. Let me help you incorporate it with certain things to help out. Because I think that week was like a pro membership sale where instead of $15, it was $10. So the pro membership sale, I got like 13 pros that day at a mall, which probably led me to like 30-40% for the day when the goal was 15. So he's like, yeah, you did really good. I'll give you a good word to your manager and we'll see what happens from here. If you want to transfer here, that's totally up to you too. If we have a spot open, we'd be happy to have you because you seem like you're doing really good. At the time, my manager over back there was kind of known as grumpy, so they thought maybe he was giving me a hard time. And to an extent, yeah, but I mean, I would have been frustrated with me too, to be completely honest, so I can't even blame that fully on him. I love that guy that I worked with from my first store. I wish I still had contact with him because he was super, super cool. One of the coolest people I ever got to work under, and someone that was very father figure like that, I would say. So like I said, I'm not trashing on him, I'm just saying what was said. So I go back to my other store, and my manager was happy to see me this time. He said, I heard everything that happened at the store. I really had my doubts, but I think you might be able to pull through. He said stuff like that. He said, if you would like to do a transfer, that sounds cool. We'll get it working. So I said, yeah, I mean, I could do a transfer. I actually ended up liking the mall environment. The Smith Haven Mall, even to this day, is my favorite store I ever worked at. So, yeah, he was like, all right, we'll try to process the transfer and see when it's going through. I can take an employee from the mall, and then we can move you over there instead. So I was like, okay. Unfortunately, that person at the mall ended up quitting, so there was no longer someone for him to take. So if I would have left, I would have left my main store short-staffed, which the assistant manager, the district manager didn't want at the time. By this point, we had a new district manager. The last guy was, I didn't like him very much. I won't say his name, but the next district manager, I'm going to say district manager number 2, this awesome lady who just, my God, above and beyond, which is how sweet she was, how motivating she was, how positive she was. I mean, hell, we had a freaking going away party for her. Every store leader showed up, and even though I wasn't a store leader, I got invited because of how much I just adored this lady for how she treated us. Just so much respect. Even to this day, I gotta consider her one of the absolute best people that I've ever had as a manager. District manager, granted, but as a manager in general, super, super cool. So she was kind of worried that my store would be short-staffed and would have a bit of trouble. So she said, at the moment, we can't do a transfer. So I said, okay, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. So I didn't get transferred to the store yet. But what I was doing is, since I was in school, I was still in Suffolk County Community College doing an IT degree. I was finishing my associates before I decided to switch to computer science and go the game development route. I was still scheduled to go to Full Sail by this point as well. My start date was March. So at this point, March 2022, by the way. At this point, I was still in community college trying to finish that degree, and the community college at Suffolk in Selden happened to only be about 20 minutes away from the mall, and also 20 minutes away from my other, 20 to 30 minutes away from Rocky Point store. So basically, the mall started having me work more, despite the fact I wasn't an official employee there yet. They asked if I wanted extra hours. I was like, hell yeah, extra money, why not? So I was working about 32 to 40 hours a week. I actually did Black Friday at both stores. I did an opening shift at the Rocky Point store, and then I worked from 6 o'clock to 10 closing at the mall store. So super, super interesting day. Oh my God, running a Black Friday at both stores was a mess, because this is, keep in mind guys, right after COVID, right as COVID was starting to buckle down a little bit and stores were opening again. COVID vaccine came around. The mask mandates were kind of sort of going away, so people wanted to get the hell out of the house. People wanted to go out and do something. So this Black Friday in particular was the biggest Black Friday I had ever worked. biggest Black Friday I ever seen. This entire general time I was working was the busiest time ever. I would argue that a normal day at the mall during 2021 was more busy than a Black Friday last year, like by a big extent at most stores. Like, I will argue that to my death. Like, it was that bad. It was that crazy. So that's something I definitely have to say. So, yeah, there was that. I worked the holidays at both stores, and then I guess a position opened at the mall, and my manager came in and said, "Hey, if you're still open to moving to that store, we have an opening for you. The holiday season is over." And my manager was already like looking to promote one of our GAs at the time to key holder, so it was not even going to be a problem anymore. So she said, "Hey, I can transfer you next week." So I was like, "Okay, that sounds really cool." I mean, I'm happy to work at the store. See, the reason why I like the mall store so much is because at a store that has a lot of traffic, the day goes by so much faster. A lot of people hated it because you constantly had to keep up with things. Like, it's a high traffic store, so people are constantly touching your walls, de-alphabetizing things. People are constantly buying products or returning products, or just we keep display cases on the wall and then give them games behind the counter instead. So a lot of these games that were quote-unquote called gutted that we kept on the wall, we constantly have to keep putting back on the wall because we'd have the gutted copy on the counter. So it was constant running around, constant organizing, constantly making sure things were good. Plenty of people used to spill their drinks. Little kids would have their like little Cheerios and shit, and shit would get messy. So people complained about it because it was super hard, but I looked at it as I'd rather work a 7.5-hour shift at a mall than work a 4-hour shift at a dead store. It feels like time is going by so slowly I could die. So yeah, I preferred the mall store and ended up going there. So at least I thought I was going the week after. Funny enough, COVID came back in a new variant, I believe, in December of 2021. I can't even remember. Maybe it was called the Delta variant. I honestly can't even remember what the variant was called. It's been so long since all this happened now. But whatever it was, the variant came around and hit us like hell. My entire staff at Rocky Point got sick. For a little while, it was just me and my girl coworker, who was a key holder as well. My store manager got super sick. My GA got super sick. The other mall was also semi-short staffed because of COVID situations that was happening. There were even some stores that couldn't open because of how many people got it. It really hit us hard in December, especially when things get cold. You know, when it gets colder out, it's easier to get viruses. So this was really a period where it was like, shit. Actually, at this point, I think it was like January, February. Whatever it was super cold and everybody got sick. So it was me and my coworker, my girl coworker for a while. And then she got sick. I was the last man standing. So from like Thursday all the way to like Sunday or a Monday, I had to run the store from open to close by myself. Usually this is not allowed. Like, usually this is not a thing you're supposed to do. I'm not a full-time manager. I'm a key holder. They usually need a manager to do things. The district manager straight up said, "Don't worry about tasks this week. We usually have inventory counts we have to do every week." She said, "Hey, it's obvious that none of the accounts are going to get done with how packed you're going to be as a single person working all those days." Especially because it was like during the big period of everyone doing returns and stuff. So people were constantly coming in right after the holidays. It was still considered holiday season for GameStop and retail. So this is a mess. I ran the store by myself, open and close from Thursday to like Sunday or Monday. So in that time, my paycheck was huge. Oh my God, was my paycheck huge. That was the most amount of money I had ever seen someone just hand me. Because I worked like 90-something hours or something. Because I was already working previously that week before everybody got sick. And then I straight up just did open to close. I think my store was 11 to 9 during that time. Maybe it was 10 to 9, yeah, because I think during the holidays we were 9:30. I got there at 9:30 open, and then store open at 10. So I was doing 10 to like 9 o'clock every single day. I eventually hit like 80 hours. It was crazy. My paycheck was huge. So finally, I texted my manager. I said, "Hey, are you coming in tomorrow? Are you feeling any better? Just checking in on you." And he didn't respond. He didn't like responding to his text messages for some reason. He would respond to calls. I texted him. He just didn't respond. So I said, "Okay, he's probably still sick." So the next day on Monday, I came, or maybe Tuesday, I don't remember. Whatever day it was. I came in and decided to, open the store. And like I said, we open at 10 o'clock, so I got there at 9:30. I'm getting through all the opening procedures. I got all the procedures done. I'm just kind of organizing, kind of just do some final things before I get the store open. I see him get out of his car literally like 10 minutes before the store is supposed to open. I'm like, damn, this dude is late. I was like, what? Like, he didn't even inform me he was coming back. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? So he comes in the door, and he's like, well, it's not on fire. He's like, well, it's on fire, but not the type of on fire I was thinking. The sales were good. Nothing caught on fire. Our tasks weren't completed, and things are a little messy in general, but, I mean, you didn't destroy the store, so thank you. Shook my hand and all that stuff. And he's like, you can honestly go home right now, or I can just keep you here till like 3 o'clock with some of the extra hours that we have since other people are sick. I was like, okay. So I stayed with him, and then my next key holder came in who was no longer sick, and my boss basically broke it to me and said, hey, your transfer, I guess it got delayed this week, but now that it's all said and done, you should be starting next week on Monday. So I did my last days at Rocky Point. For my week, he shook my hand at the end. Like, he left the store at first, and then usually when he came back, it was to buy something. He said, "Hold on, I forgot one thing," and I'm thinking, "Is he gonna hit me?" I don't know why I thought he was gonna hit me. It just he was coming up to me, and he looked angry for some reason. He kind of just always did. He always looked grumpy, whatever it was. But he came up to me and like reached his hand out and just like shook my hand. He was like, you did a really good job. I'm sorry I was hard on you at times. I needed you to improve really, really good. Don't get me wrong, you were the biggest pain in my ass, but one thing I got out of this is that I learned patience. I learned how to be patient, something I never had skills of before. I was like, damn, okay. And I told him myself too, I was like, you helped me a lot. You were like kind of like a father figure in a way with how much you taught me and a lot of the lessons I learned, and I'm definitely going to carry this over into not even like the next store, but like in general for how I have my work ethic. So whatever it was. So I left that. Monday comes along. We had a new manager and a new assistant manager at that store. We had a key holder that got promoted to assistant manager and a store manager from another store where his store was closing, and he was running both stores while the other store was closing. Like the first manager that really ran 2 stores for the most part, like full time. So unfortunately, yeah, they fired the previous assistant manager due to some interesting things that happened, and well, they caught on to some stuff and he technically quit. And then since it happened under this manager, they had to look into her too. And I guess there was like a few little weird things that she did that they were just like, okay, we have to let you go too. Because unfortunately she got fired only a week later. So now we got a new store leader. We got a new assistant manager. A very, very, very new assistant manager who's been key holder for like 2 years at that point. Don't get me wrong. And you know what? She stepped up to the plate. Absolutely stepped up to the plate. She was an amazing assistant store manager. She was incredible. To the point where she was pretty much just as qualified to be as manager as the actual manager that was managing the store. We got there, and guess what? The exact same thing happened that happened to me the previous week. Everyone got COVID except me and one other person. So it was basically me and him just kind of working every day or every other day and kind of like swapping, Or I think maybe him and I were working every day, but we were doing like half shifts each. Like I would come in, I would do single coverage. He would come in on the second half and he would do single coverage, which was hell for a week like that because it was like still during technical holiday season. But we made it through. We got through it, and I'll tell you, we were both inexperienced key holders at that point. There wasn't a whole lot that I learned at the Rocky Point store because my manager kind of had me do more sales and kind of he delegated in a very smart way. Our store stayed together very well. He knew the people that weren't as great at sales. He dedicated them more to doing tasks because they were super good at that. He had the people that were really good at sales jump on sales, and we kept the numbers up while also keeping the store neat and everything ran smoothly. So at this point, since it was just me and him, the other guy, the other key holder had already been there for about 8 months. I had been there maybe 3 months. I had been there close to the same time, June to January, maybe a little bit longer. But him and I both had very little experience. So we were constantly trying to call my managers for things when shit hit the fan and there were a lot of things that we didn't know yet, with things we had to do or certain policies. And my store manager, I can't blame him. I mean, you're not getting paid off the clock, so I'm not going to be like, oh, he didn't answer the phone. Plus, he had COVID. 90% of the time, he didn't answer his phone. But my assistant manager, she was answering like every 5 seconds. Like she was super sick in bed. You can hear it in her voice, and she was still like helping us throughout the whole thing. So she came in clutch. Not that my other manager didn't. He did very amazing things for us. But that week, oh my God, did she come in clutch. I still like consider that a reason why I consider her like just a true amazing employee in general. She went above and beyond. Really, she did go above and beyond. I still appreciate her, and I reminded her of that before I quit, because I think she was still when she quit, I reminded her of that. So I was just like, yeah, you jumped in the fire when you had no experience and you kept us together. Thank you. You and the other manager, you guys kept things together. You jumped in the fire having no experience, and you really helped us stay together. Thank you. So I made sure that I let her know that she was very appreciated. So by this point, this is when a lot of things started changing. 2022 we're now in. 2021 was obviously a big point in GameStop because stocks went up. This is when like the stocks went up and a lot of shit was going on. But once the stocks started to fall and GameStop still realized they were losing a lot of money, they basically started doing some changes. A lot of changes that I wasn't exactly happy with. I'm just going to go by all the policies that changed in a timeline without actually going over like the experiences I had with all this stuff. I'm going to talk about basically everything that happens that I wasn't very happy with at all, and is still to an extent what's going on today. I'll even get up to where we are at this day and time of the making of this video. So basically they realized they were losing money, so they had to do some cost-effective options. So typically after a holiday season is when the hours get cut again because it's not as high traffic all the time. So we expected this, but we didn't know how much they were going to get cut. They got cut very significantly, to a point where regular stores, single coverage was like the most common thing at this point. I'm going to explain how everything started when I got there and then what things were changing to. I shouldn't go out of order like that. So the way things started was you typically had at least 2 key holders for most of the day, and then one would leave, and you'd have a GA, or the other way around where you had a GA in the beginning of the day and a key holder. GA would leave, you'd be double coverage with an SGA closing the store. Either one. A mall store like the one I was working at in Smith Haven, it was typically like 3 people on a shift, like pretty much all the time. Very like every once in a while, or like maybe towards the end or towards the beginning of the shift, you started with 2, but it was typically like 3 people on: a manager, a key holder, and a GA, or assistant manager and key holder and GA, or maybe all 3 key holders, or just whatever mix was going to work to have 3 people on, whatever it was. But and you had one manager running both stores and basically an assistant manager everywhere. For most, except unless you're like a really low traffic store, then typically you didn't qualify for one. My Rocky Point store technically didn't qualify to have an assistant manager, which is why we were just GAs, key holder, SGAs, and store leaders. So by this point, things started changing. Our hours broke down pretty hard after the fact. So basically, the issue was now we started having issues where we were no longer like triple coverage or double coverage anymore. At a low traffic store, it was like one person came in the morning and they ran the store for like, maybe they had a GA with them too. They ran the store for maybe up to like 4 o'clock. Say they opened at like 10 and close at 9. They'd have like a one key holder up that would work to like 4 or 5, and then they'd have another key holder come in, potentially with the GA as well, and you would maybe work with them for like an hour or two, double coverage, and then that key holder would leave, and it would just be them in the GA, or in general, just the 2 key holders, because we barely had any hours for GAs in general. So we were basically giving GAs like 2 days a week with very minimal hours, which isn't sustainable at all for a job unless you're just trying to get some little extra spending money on the side if your parents are paying for college like I was. In a case like that, if you're just trying to do something just to keep busy, not very sustainable. So it kind of started turning into a mess a little bit at the mall store because this affected us a little bit too. It was no longer triple coverage, it was double coverage, and then people were getting so minimal hours that they were quitting, and it was really starting to cause a problem. And then at this point, they were really starting to cut down on assistant manager altogether. they were just kind of being like, yeah, I don't think you guys really need assistant manager. Key holders, SGAs are basically the same thing. They're just not making schedules. So that put more pressure onto the store leaders. And then this is really when things got very, very difficult. There was a lot of promises here, and none of them were executed, unfortunately. So basically what happened here was SL2 was a concept that was starting to become like something that was almost the standard at this point. So our district was one of the districts. Well, everyone was testing it, but in our district, they decided to pick my boss, who was already running a high traffic mall store, and to be an SL2. And they had a few other people in the district that did the same thing. In my opinion, the hardest store in that district to cover was the Smith Haven Mall, 100% in general. So to take a manager from that to run a second store sounded like a mess. But here was the promise that they gave. My manager was one of the best performers in terms of sales in the whole district. I think he was like, at one point, like top 1. I was like top 5, top 10. One of our other key holders was about on par with him, but my manager was really, really good at sales. He was like one of the best in the district. So of course they chose him. They said, hey, we want you to run 2 stores. And my boss was like, oh, that sounds rough. Any help I'm going to get? So they said, hey, so if you were doing this, we're going to give you an assistant manager at both stores. So basically what he would be doing is he is managing both stores, being the person that everybody reports to, but he's only working 20 hours each store because now they took away overtime, and they're basically doing 40 hours a week is the maximum. So he would be doing 20 hours at one store and 20 hours at the other store. So to do that as a manager is terrible, first of all, to have that. So they said, we'll give you an assistant manager that works more hours than you at each store, which I thought sounded fair. We all thought that sounded fair. We said, hey, if he's running 2 stores, give him an assistant manager that runs the show most of the time. All an assistant manager really is someone that enforces the rules of the manager, basically has the same kind of abilities that the manager does and responsibilities, but is just enforcing how he wants to do it. So yeah, they're an assistant manager at both stores. Not only did they not hire 2, they hired 0. When he got switched, we were told, hey, in the beginning we're gonna look for candidates for you, and we're gonna promote from within, and we'll try to take someone maybe from another store or promote someone from your store to take those roles. So there were 2 people at my store that were qualified, 2 different employees. One of the guys that I survived that COVID wave with. There was him, and there was another key holder who was also a super good performer. I technically also said, I was like, hey, I kind of want that too. But I was already moving to another store, and my current district manager was in the process. I mean, I was already moving to another state because I was going to go to Full Sail, at least at this time. This is what I said I was going to do. So my manager was in the process of trying to find me a promotion at a different location, like in, wherever I was going. Florida. I believe I was already set to go to Full Sail at that point. So she was trying to get in contact with other districts to see if they needed an assistant. So I was kind of passed over for that in that regard because I wasn't going to be there very long. If it was like February here, maybe January, and I was leaving in like March or April. So at that point, it was like, yeah, we're not going to promote you. So they were working on promoting those candidates, and by just some stupid miracle, well, not miracle, well, I guess it was kind of a miracle. It was kind of funny how this all turned out. They both got fired, both candidates. The first one got fired for stealing a pink controller. Middle-aged dude, by the way, guys. Middle-aged dude who had kids, and this was his only job as a part-time key holder, got fired for stealing a pink DualSense controller. He basically took a controller to the back room in its box, trashed the box, and put the controller in his pocket to make it look like he was organizing and not stealing anything. He put it in his pocket in the bathroom, so he didn't walk out with the box. And the only reason this was uncovered is because my boss went to the back room to use the bathroom, and my boss was clumsy as hell. He goes to the bathroom, he stands up, I guess he was taking a shit, whatever the hell he was doing. He stands up and knocks over the damn garbage can by just some miracle, and he sees a pink controller in there, and he goes, huh, what's that doing here? So he does a count of the controllers to see how much we're supposed to have, and we're down 1, which is really funny because I had just done the count, and I noticed we were missing a controller too, but at the mall, it was super hard to keep inventory like perfect with just how many people are around. People can definitely steal. I mean, we had, systems in place when we went into shrink, which is what they called it. So this was kind of something I thought was just normal, but my boss found that in the thing, and he made a mistake that he said he regretted like right after. He texted the group chat saying, "Hey, I'm looking into this. It looks like a controller was stolen," which he shouldn't have done. which I mean, I probably would have done the same thing too. But unfortunately, that turned us all into pointing fingers at each other, except the person that actually did it, which I should have called on to right away. I thought it was my other coworker. That other coworker thought it was me. It was super, super funny. Me and that dude were best friends, but for some reason, whenever stuff happened, we just pointed fingers at each other. I don't know what it was. We were super, super close, but for some reason, we always just pointed the finger at each other. Maybe because we were in competition. He was better than me at numbers. Well, I'll explain that later. And him and I were always just neck to neck and, just fighting with each other for that. But anyway, so eventually, yeah, it was found out that it was this middle-aged guy. He got fired, and yeah, so that never ended up happening. So then they were talking about basically doing assistant manager again, but only doing it for one, having one assistant manager kind of bounce between the stores, which is kind of how things ended up being. You would get an assistant manager that would be at the A store, which is the higher traffic store, for 2 days a week, and the B store 3 days a week, and the actual manager at the A store 3 times a week, since it's the more traffic, and the B store 2 times a week. So this is how things were supposed to be. But then that second person got fired for a very, very dumb reason. I personally like the dude. I never had any personal issues with him. I always considered him a really good friend. He was someone I would talk to even outside of work, someone who I thought was really funny, someone who I thought was cool, someone who got me even through some rough times. But unfortunately, he was very shady when it came to sales. For a while, I noticed it, and so did everybody else. He was lying about what the benefits of the memberships would be at some times. He would take like money off of like some purchase so someone would buy the membership, or say like a sale happens and like for like a game or something and the price tag went down, he'd keep the original price tag on at like, say it was $50 and dropped down to $35. That's a $15 decrease. Basically what he would keep the original price sticker on there, and when the person came to the counter, he would tell them, "Hey, the membership costs $15, but it's free today because it brings the game down to $35." Basically making it seem like the membership would give him the benefit of taking $15 off the game, which even though the game was already $15 off due to the sale. So that was one of the things. The other thing was straight up just lying about things he did for no reason. It was kind of strange. Things would happen, he would like act like they didn't and just like completely gaslight us. And then just a lot of stupid things that were just causing us issues. Like I said, a lot of the lying with the policies really fell down on us because customers would come back and expect these things out of the membership. Every once in a while, we would have to honor it because of what this guy told him. And this even followed me into the end of my GameStop career in New York. Like, it went on for 2 years after this guy was even gone. So this was already, like, since he was selling so many memberships, like I said, his numbers were so high, he was a candidate for assistant manager. Since this was happening so often, it came down on us quite a lot. So it was very frustrating. And then, like I said, he really wanted to get these metrics up, and that's why he was the best performer. The absolute downfall of what happened was GameStop decided when you put a pre-order down on a game, it's about $5. When you put a pre-order down on a console, it's about $50. If it's like a special super expensive collector's edition, it's usually $10. GameStop made a decision saying, hey, we want to see if we get more people pre-ordering games if we give them a reserve for free. Rather than charging them $5 for a deposit, just had them pre-order a game and just put their name down for them to come pick it up, and we give them a call, whatever. I don't know what this dude was thinking. I have no idea what he was thinking to this day. He claimed this was a joke, but he didn't tell anybody about it until he got caught. One of the games was God of Rock, which I was actually looking forward to. I already had a pre-order down for. Second game that had a $0 pre-order was like JoJo Siwa's, a JoJo Siwa game. Yeah. And then I think there might have been a third, but if I'm quite honest, I don't remember what the third was. I know there was quite a few $0 pre-orders. Oh boy, here's where things get fun. I'm sitting at home with my ex-girlfriend and kind of just chilling there, and I get a call from that GA who I said was the one who informed me about the job. And by the way, he also was super good at his job and basically trained people into key holders despite being a GA, and even did some management stuff because of how good he was at this job. He had no right just being a GA. He was just there for the discount, but he was so good at what he did. He literally had more qualifications, I think, than even the managers that were working. Not to trash on them, but he was super overqualified and super good at what he did and super good at management. So he decided to be the one to give me the call. And the call was, he calls me on the phone, and he says, hey, before I tell you all this, I just want you to know you're not the only person affected, but I know you have anxiety and you tend to overreact. I was like, wow, thanks. And he goes, so I wanted to break it to you before you came and saw it yourself. I go, okay, what happened? He goes, our little friend, you know how we have the $0 pre-orders, right? I was like, yeah. He says, well, our little friend decided to load your account with 70 copies of God of Rock pre-ordered for the PS5 and 30 copies of JoJo Siwa for the Xbox. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, he pre-ordered 100 copies because it didn't cost any money to do so. So he just kept clicking pre-order, 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 pre-order. And he did this. I was one of the accounts affected. It wasn't just me. It was like, it was like other customers too, and some other employees in the store too. It was really weird. He was like, I just wanted to give you a heads up. And I was like, how do you know it was him? He was like, well, for one, it's obvious, which I was like, yeah, true. And he said, well, and for two, our warranty goal is 8% this month, this quarter for warranty, 8%. He was sitting at 635% that day. So we were like, yeah, that's... Well, actually, the way that they found it out, how he started doing these pre-orders, they saw one day he was at 635%, and they were like, yeah, how? So they looked at the transactions and saw what was done. So I was like, what happens now? Is he getting fired? Am I going to have to expect to come in? And he was just like, me and the boss are looking into this and trying to decide what to do. We're going to get in contact with the district manager. Just wanted to give you a heads up so you didn't see this and freak out. So at this point, I was one of the two people that knew that this was happening, other than the manager and this guy, because he basically did manager duties in this regard. And by the way, my assistant manager had quit. The girl I was talking really highly about, she quit to do another job. The other job didn't work out. She came back as a key holder, so we no longer had an assistant manager because we weren't promoting to assistant manager at this point, which I'll get into. So he gives me that call and says, yeah, so we'll look into it. He's basically taking on the assistant manager role despite the fact he's a GA, just super funny. Just says, yeah, we'll look into it. We'll keep you updated. We just wanted to let you know. So the second person that got affected was another GA in our store, but it didn't get finalized. Apparently she was in the store with this guy, and she noticed he was putting all this stuff on her account. Like, he was doing a transaction. She noticed that her account was pulled up and that he was about to finish the transaction. So she freaked out. She was like, what are you doing? Take all that off my account. And he was like, don't worry, it's free. He's like, no, take this all off of my account now. So she freaked out, and basically he didn't go through with it, and she called the manager crying because she thought he was stealing her money, which understandably so. She was also a very new GA. She worked very minimal hours because she had two other jobs, so she was only there once a week. We really just had her, kind of go around. She was a sweet middle-aged lady who was you could not be mean to her. She was the sweetest lady ever. To this day, I wish I still had contact with her, but oh my God, was she so sweet. So you couldn't, there was no reason to let her go for any reason. We just had her around to kind of just help us with whatever we needed. She was also really sweet with the customers. She was actually really good at selling warranties because she always talked about her sons would just beat the shit out of their controllers and headsets, and she always got a warranty. She's like, yeah, my kids suck. They just break everything. So she always got people on warranties. It was the greatest. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, she's calling my manager, just crying, and so we had to calm her down. We're just like, hey, look, don't worry. He didn't take any money. He put in a bunch of free pre-orders to try and make his numbers look better. That's what happens. So this is all in the know at this point. So I'm working at the second store that my manager is running, the B store, which was in Center Reach. By the way, if any of you guys are watching from that store, I loved every single one of you. You guys were goated as hell. This store was basically dead half the time because we had a Walmart right there. And at the time, games were $10 cheaper than they were at GameStop, so our membership meant absolutely nothing to most people. But when the store was dead and we would get all the tasks done because the store was always dead, all three of my coworkers and I would just play on my Steam Deck. It was so much fun. I will give a shout out to Game Controller Network. The dude Bottles, who was on there, was my coworker. I'll at least give him a shout out because he wouldn't care if I put his name out there. Antonio, I love you. You were incredible to work with. I know I said I wasn't going to give names, but I think you deserve that shout out. You were one of the best people to work with. Probably someone who got along with me the most in terms of someone who had all my interests. The only issue was when people were giving us free stuff, he also wanted the free stuff. It was no longer just me anymore. So we kind of had competition in that way. But at the very least, he was really fun to work with. And so same with the other guys. They had the same interests with me as well. We all played the Steam Deck. We all played the same games. It was such a fun environment at that store. Despite everything kind of being on fire due to the new SL2 thing and the holidays and all these people in our stores getting fired, having a mess. But anyway, yeah, so my manager walks in while I'm working at the other store the other day, and he goes, "Do you want to be my ASL?" I was like, back to this. I said, "Is that dude getting fired?" He goes, "Yes, don't tell him though, and don't tell the district manager that I told you, and don't tell anyone else that I told you. The only reason I'm telling you is because I want to promote you." I said, "Okay. Yeah, I'll take ASL. I mean, whatever works for you." So that was what was going to happen. So he said, "This is the day next week that we're getting rid of this dude. Come in at this time with the dude. Don't say anything to him. Say nothing. Say absolutely nothing to him. Like, just talk to him casually. Yeah, just you're going to be who closes the store that night, despite the fact he's doing closing shift." So I get there, and basically, he's there, I'm there, and my manager is there, and the assistant manager comes by, and is like in the back room talking to my manager. My thing is, I bet they're probably talking about what's about to happen. So I'm in the front, and this was like the weirdest. This is also really funny. I had a GA with me who, by the way, I miss. I don't even know if I should say his name. Like I said, I'll stay true to this. If he ends up watching this video, I'm going to end up basically just like giving it away that it was him to him. Our most reliable GA that I tried to get promoted to key holder the entire time, to SGA, that was like better than like 90% of the key holders and was super good at his job, just didn't have the good sales numbers, but was just super awesome and super reliable and someone you can always count on. I think he'll know who he is if I'm talking about that. So I'm doing a transaction, right? I had just gotten there. My first transaction and only transaction at that point was a transaction with a pro membership applied to it. So we had a metric system on our computer that was every once in a while a little buggy, but what happened I knew was BS. So I got one transaction down, and this other dude, the one that was about to get fired, who's basically always had like a higher percentage than me for the most part on average, was working. I saw him miss a few opportunities in pro. And I was like, I'm beating you, because him and I would have a conversation. I was just joking around trying to make it like a normal day. It's like, I'm still at 100%. Where are you at? And he's like, so he goes on the computer, and this is where he completely just like, I knew something was going on that was shady. He goes, no, you're sitting at 33%. I was like, how's that possible? I've seen it where I've gotten like only pros in a transaction back when the PS5 was pro exclusive. Whenever we did a drop, where I've gotten all transactions that were pros, and I'd be sitting at 50%. But at 33%, that sounded very wonky to me. It showed that I had 5 transactions, not just one. It showed that I had 5. So I go, what is going on? And this is at the point the district manager calls him into the back room. And by the way, a GA just made a mistake under this other guy, under the guy who's about to get fired. And directly after it happened, just by whatever perfect timing it was, and they looked at the error. This was the time that they had the other dude go in the back room who was about to get fired. So the way this all played out was funny. So I'm sitting with the GA that I'm with, and I'm kind of just looking at the computer, because I'm not supposed to let anybody know that I knew about this. I did let the GA know after the district manager left that I knew everything that was going on for a specific reason. But anyway, we'll get into that. So I'm looking at the transactions, and I'm just like, I know for a fact I didn't sell this this or this. I saw the other dude sell that thing. So what I figured out is what you can do on the POS at GameStop. You need to sign into your you have to sign into your register login in order to get on the register and do a sale, which tracks your numbers. But in the transaction window after you get in, you can put someone else's employee initials. Say like you're trying to help somebody with their metrics, or and have them or they take over your computer like in the middle of a transaction that would just be a complete pain to undo. They can put their initials in there and just switches it to that employee. Their name isn't even on the receipt. It's still the other employee. They just switch over to get the metrics or the credit for what they did. He had been doing that to me for God knows how long, and none of us knew about it. I was always kind of weary of like, wow, he's doing super, super good. And I'm doing good too, but I'm not like that much worse, but like I still feel like I was doing better. As it turned out, he was doing this for a very long time. I was sitting at like 25 to 27% pro, where I should have been sitting at like 35. What was happening is he tried to make it not obvious by only doing this once in a while, but what he would do was put my name in any transaction that he missed an opportunity of a pro membership of, or a warranty, or a pre-order, anything under those lines, and was completely tanking my numbers, which is why he was qualified for ASL over me, because he was purposely tanking my numbers because he knew he couldn't compete with me. So it was messy. So I was just like, whoa. Like, I just came to that realization, and in the back of my head, I was like, he's about to get fired, and I just found this out on the last day, so I guess we're going to see my metrics go up. So I didn't say that to the GA next to me yet. So I didn't see the dude walk out, but my district manager came up to me and said, hey, just so you know, so-and-so is no longer in the company. And I was just like, was it because of this and this and this? And she goes, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really supposed to tell you that, but I just wanted to thank you for being the one who legitimately was that good at the sales. And actually was legitimately doing things the right way and not doing any foul play. So we pretty much knew at that point what happened. But the funniest thing about it, before she came out, apparently the GA saw the SGA that got fired walk out, and he thought it was because of the error that he made because he was next to the other dude. He was like, oh no, did I get him fired? And I started hysterically laughing because he like looked so freaked out and felt so bad. So after the district manager left and my store manager left, I was like, hey, so he got fired for a reason. It wasn't because of you. So I broke down everything to him. He was like, I thought I got someone fired. And I was like laughing so hard. I was like, dude, no, that wasn't the case. So now we transform to the next topic, which was basically trying to get promoted and the events that led to eventually getting promoted. So I had my district manager that was now on my side because she saw everything that just happened. And basically we were in a freeze for promotions during this part of the holiday. She basically said, hey, we're not doing any promotions at the moment. My regional manager just doesn't want it to happen. So she says, I'm working, I'm fighting for you. When the holiday season is over, I will get to working on getting you promoted to assistant for the store. I really appreciate everything you did. So unfortunately, on Black Friday, she quit. She put her 2 weeks in already because she found a better job opportunity elsewhere, which I commend her for. She was awesome. I already said this lady was awesome. She motivated me all the time. She was great, very honorable, I'd say. And so she had her 2 weeks in, and then we had this other district manager number 3, come in, and just super rude for no reason off the bat. I don't know if she's the same way now because I remember her kind of being better later on when she wasn't my district manager anymore, which we'll get into. But in the beginning of this, she was just absolutely rude. She said mean things to my district manager because she was already about to take the place and she was there kind of talking with her in the back. And apparently she said just enough to where my previous district manager just walked out and quit on the spot. Basically said, screw you, you handle this. So I saw my district manager walk out and she said bye to me. She's like, hey, well, she said, bye to the rest of my staff, but she came up to me, she said, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't get you promoted, but I gotta go. Good luck with her. I was like, ooh, okay. So, yeah, we had customers that were literally complaining that day on Black Friday that there was a rude lady that they were like, does she work here? Like, she was just being super condescending and rude to us for no reason, and whatever it was. And I was like, actually, that's the district manager. And they were like, is she? They're like, well, tell her to calm down. I was like, she's our boss. I don't know what we can do. And she's new. Whatever it was not a very good first impression. So next day, or maybe it was like 2 days later, I introduced myself to her and said hi. Oh, God. I'm not going to say where her actual name was, but it sounded like Rwanda, and she happened to be black. And I thought her name was Rwanda for a while. And when oh my God, when I said her name in front of my coworkers, they were like, "Whoa, racist!" and like making fun of me, like absolutely saying stuff. And I was like, "Oh wait, no, it wasn't that. I think I thought of it because of the genocide." They're like, "Oh, so you're thinking about killing her people too? Oh, this is racist!" And they're just taking everything I said and just completely twisting it on me to screw with me. Because I'm like, no, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop talking. Whatever it was super super funny. My coworkers like to mess around like that all the time. They were super jokey, and I was the easiest target because shit would just come out of my mouth that was very easy to twist. Regardless, whatever. So I finally met her in person, and I let her know. I was like, hey, I was working with the previous district manager, and she was talking about getting me promoted to assistant. Do you think that might still happen? Not to rush. I'm okay waiting. She took that like as some kind of offense for some reason. The store was a little bit messy due to the holidays and due to a lot of things that were happening, like firings and all that stuff. And she basically blamed my manager for everything, and basically said, hey, your store looks like this. Like, well, she didn't say it in my face. She talked shit to to my manager, and said, if the store looks like this, why would I promote him if he was part of the problem? And it was like, oh my God. I was not happy to hear that. Like, she took, like, some kind of offense to it for some reason. Like, oh, you're expecting a promotion even though your store looks like this. It's like, no, I was told I was going to get promoted by the last person, so I was just asking to see if that was something that was still happening. I wasn't trying to do anything of, in a bad extent, but, yeah. She had a trigger finger on the fire button for basically firing half of our team. I think there were 5 store managers that got fired that holiday season. For one, to make SL2s at both stores. Like I was saying, this was becoming a whole new thing. And for 2, for stupid reasons. They fired my manager with the excuse that he just couldn't make the store look good. But I thought things were a mess. Don't get me wrong. Things did get really messy. But I don't think that was a justification to get him fired. Plus, they said, we'll give you a chance, and when we come back on this day next week, if everything is bad, you're fired. She ended up coming 3 days early while we were all working on trying to make the store perfect, and just fired him on the spot. As if she was already planning on firing him no matter what. So, absolute mess. He got fired. I then had a new manager who also was really, really good. The other manager before, I still talk to him all the time. He's an awesome guy. Someone who I respect. Somebody who I admire for being so laid back with us. For being truthful. For not letting drama get caused, for basically just, like, being brutally honest all the time. Like, say, like, someone was talking trash about another customer, or, like, someone was talking trash about another employee. When we were right next to each other, they'd be like, hey, he said you did this. And I'd just be like, or, like, everyone would just be like, why are you doing that? Stuff like that. But he kept things really fun, and it really was a really fun environment under him. But we got this new guy. Unfortunately, he got thrown into the fire with this, because he was running Comac, and he was running, which is in Suffolk County, and he was running Massapequa, which was in Nassau County, New York. The day that my boss got fired, or the day of, he wasn't even told that it happened. He wasn't even told that this was happening. She straight up just told him on the spot, hey, you are no longer working at Massapequa. You now have the Smith Haven Mall as your other store. And he was like, what? What happens in Massapequa? We found another guy. Do I have to do it? She's like, yeah, I'm sorry. As a manager, we have to have you be flexible, so we're throwing you out that store. So he didn't want this store. He really didn't want this store. And I really felt bad for him because, like, he's getting thrown in the fire with this. The only stores he ever worked at were semi-lower traffic stores. I wouldn't say low traffic, but lower traffic stores. So being thrown into a mall for someone who doesn't want to do it really is overwhelming. Most of the staff that I worked with didn't do well at the mall, with the exception of a few people. So anybody that was basically at the mall just didn't like it. I was one of the only people who actually knew how to handle a mall. So when he came in, I felt super bad. I knew he didn't want to be there. And unfortunately, he came in and had to fix the whole mess that was going on. I think we seriously could have fixed it with the other guy, but this guy did it really fast. He was super, super fast. He was really efficient at this kind of stuff. So I kind of looked at him as a god. I was like, wow, you got this done in a day. That's insane. So it was cool. It was cool. As a joke, I called him my savior. And then, of course, that got to my other manager. He's like, oh, he's your savior. So I was bad. I was like, no, I'm just joking, man. I'm just joking because he made the store look nice really quick. And he was like, oh, okay, no, he's your savior. And I was like, whatever. We all joked around with each other. But regardless, this was not meant to be a store for him. I hate to say it. It really just wasn't something that that he seemed to like. So I made it my, other than trying to get assistant manager, I made it my role to sort of to sort of help him as much as I could. Basically try to take over and not take over, but do anything he needs help with, help him with anything he's struggling with. My metrics were better at the mall. His metrics were better at the other store. I'm trying to get promoted to assistant manager. And he was like, hey, can you help me at my other store too? Every once in a while. I was like, yeah, I can help you there. He was like, maybe you can train some of my staff to get their numbers higher. I was like, yeah, sure. So, however, I still took over most of the mall shifts at this point. Then they were talking about finally promoting me. Our districts merged, and the manager that was fire like had her trigger finger on the fire button. She got demoted to assistant district manager and then got moved to another district when an opening came. So she was only our district manager like maybe a month at most. And then we got this new person who, by the way, seemed really strict on the phone. I was terrified. I was like, this sounds exactly like the last one. I was like, this is not going to go well. Super strict on the phone, super just hammer down, just absolutely just scary. Like super assertive, super serious. I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. So I'm working at another store, my manager's other store, and she comes in and I'm going, oh, here we go. I'm afraid. The complete opposite. She was the complete opposite person as what was in these calls. She was just super assertive to, try to make everybody work as hard as they can. But the second she came into the store, she was like the nicest lady. It made no sense. It was super, super interesting. Like, she was just, like, super nice and super laid back. And, like, I remember I made a mistake. She's like, it happens once in a while. I'm thinking she was about to yell at me like she would in a call. Like, nope, nothing happened. I had one of the key holders that wasn't doing so well in numbers, and his pitch sucked, and I thought she was going to pull him aside and yell at him and be like, what was that? Just like she would in calls. Nope, she's like, here, I'm sure, let's walk you through some pitches and help you with your sales and stuff. And I'm just like, wow, this lady's actually super nice. And so me and her are talking. I forgot what she was having me do. She was having me do some specific kind of task. This was the worst moment to have this happen, and for some reason this has happened multiple times. I was passing a kidney stone at this point. I felt the worst back pain in the world. I had already been through kidney stones enough to the point where during this era of GameStop, I was going to the hospital quite a bit due to kidney stone pain every once in a while. And I had the worst pain in my back, and I'm absolutely keeping my cool, helping customers, literally getting memberships right in front of her, so she was happy to see that. And I'm like, at one point, I'm like, like, I tried to keep it cool. I was like, hey, can you run the store out here while I run to the bathroom? I'm in extreme pain by this point, but I'm, like, trying to keep it cool. So, yeah, go back there. It's okay. I'll look at things. I was like, okay. I passed a kidney stone right there. Like, literally right there. And I came out just perfectly fine. She's like, were you okay before? Were you in pain? I was like, I didn't tell her what happened. I told her later, like, much, much later, like, towards the end of when I worked there, what happened that day. But, yeah, that happened. That was interesting. And then she left, and things were good. And pretty much from all that point, I was doing really well with my coworkers. Everybody seemed to be doing really well. I liked everyone I was working with, and I started kind of doing really well metrics-wise. The district manager eventually saw how my potential was to become assistant manager, but assistant manager wasn't really a thing anymore at this point. Like I said, it was kind of phased out. So the way this was going was basically she was just like, hey, ASL really isn't a thing anymore. So what we can do is make you an ASL, but you're going to run 2 stores just like your manager. You guys are going to flip-flop back and forth. He does 3 days at the main store, 2 days at the non-main store. You do 3 days at the non-main store. 2 days at the main store. And sometimes we would switch it up depending on scheduling conflicts and with the permission of the district manager and everything. But that's basically how the process was. And she said the only reason this is happening is because you are now an SL2 in training. So this position is meant to be temporary. It's not meant to be something that you stay in forever, and this is just where you can stay for the rest of GameStop. We're increasing your pay, which it got increased pretty high, actually, from where I was, because I think I was getting paid like 15, and it got increased to 19. So I was like, oh, cool, sweet. Which is not great for a manager in general, but it was, at least in New York. But hey, I took it. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. It'll give me more hours. So on top of the pay, I'm getting more hours, which means that my paycheck is going to really, really increase, and I can buy more games and more collector's editions and all this other stuff. It was super, super cool. So that happened, and so I got promoted. I started. This is where things got really unfortunate. I started going through like some really bad mental health stuff. See, me and my ex broke up a few months prior, so I was already starting to go through some mental health stuff, and I started going on medications to help with the depression and anxiety. I don't know what it was. I was already starting to go a little manic a little bit, and I'll get into why that was. I was on an antidepressant, and I was on anti-anxiety. I was on Lexapro, and I was on Visceral. Those were the two medications I was taking. I ended up going manic, and I didn't know why. Everything was going crazy, so my friend had just taken Lexapro and gone crazy too. So I thought it was the Lexapro, and I was like, I'm never taking this again. And you're not supposed to cold turkey an SSRI. Unfortunately, I made the decision to do that the same week I got promoted, and I went into an absolute spiral. An absolute freaking spiral. Absolute spiral. Like, out of control, not remembering things I did, having no short-term memory, forgetting everything that was happening around me, being extremely hyper, being extremely manic, like not good manic. Just like all over the place, depressive. It was bad. It was bad. And of course, in that mindset, when you're out of your mind like that, in psychosis, you don't always know. Like, you're not always self-aware of that kind of stuff. I've had more self-awareness lately. But back then, when this happened for the first time, I had no self-awareness. So everything that was happening was out of my control. So I'm starting to cause an absolute mess at the store. Unfortunately, I made a lot of people scared and look at me in a different way. And really thought that this was just who I was and that I was power hungry over the position, but this was a mess. I was not doing well at all. I ended up landing in the hospital for psychiatric reasons 5 days after I got off the medication because I was about to jump in front of a car. It was bad. It was really bad. Luckily, my coworker, who I still consider a friend, and my manager saw how bad it got, and one of them was already experienced with mental health and knew a lot about it. And basically just said, hey, I'm having you go to this place. We're going to go to this place that helps you kind of figure this stuff out. And they'll decide from there what the best path to take is. So I went there and I said too much information. They basically said, hey, we have to throw you in the hospital. I was like, oh, okay. So basically I went in there for 5 days. And as it turned out, I was bipolar. And the reason that I went into mania is because SSRIs can cause mania without a mood stabilizer to counteract it. So basically, I was just doing an SSRI, which caused me to go manic, which was a mess, and then cold turkeying off of it didn't make it better. So they put me on a few different things, a few mood stabilizers on top of a new medication. I don't exactly remember what I was taking. All I know is it wasn't effective enough because I left after 5 days, and I went back 2 weeks later. So this is like the whole era of when I'm assistant manager, like early era of assistant manager. So everybody's like, what is wrong with this dude? Like, justifiably so. It was so weird that it happened all at this period. It happened at the worst possible time when I was shooting for something that I was shooting for a long time. I wanted to be an SL2 as well at this point. I was still preparing to go away to school, but I wanted to be a manager. And at this point in my life too, I was just living day by day because I was so depressed after the breakup happened, and I just didn't have any motivation to really go forward. I just said, I'll live day by day and just hope things get better. So I was just aiming to be SL2. Finally, I get out of the hospital the second time. My medications seem to be working a little bit better, but then they start giving really, really weird side effects. So I got off of them, and it was not the same kind of cold turkey as getting off an SSRI. So I didn't feel the immediate effects of going crazy. So September comes around, and then where I'm finally assistant manager for like a month at this point, end of August all the way to like beginning of October. So 2 months of assistant manager experience. I get a call from my district manager, and basically she said, hey, so all of GameStop is doing a test, but they wanted us specifically to really incorporate this one. The high traffic stores in our district are going to have a test where basically the SL2 is just going to become a single store leader for the one store, not worry about a second store, to see if we end up becoming more profitable, operations end up being better, because apparently things weren't going the way GameStop wanted. So I said, okay, what do you mean? Like, is my boss not going to run a certain store, or what's going to happen? So she goes, we're promoting you to temporary store leader at Comac, and we're putting your boss at the mall store. And I pretty much knew how this was going to end. I already said before, my manager was not cool at the mall store. He hated it. The only reason he semi-tolerated it is because he had Comac. He had the Comac store. And only had to do the mall store like 3 times a week and then do the rest at Comac. And I didn't mind having Comac as my second store, even though it was an hour away, because I was only there like 3 times a week, twice a week, depending on certain weeks. And then I did the rest of my shifts at the mall store. So it was like, okay, I'm at the time I was like, yeah, this is fine. And my boss was like, yeah, this is fine. We both got transferred to the stores we didn't want, which was a mess here. It was an hour away from me, and my store would open at 9 and at 10. His store was also relatively far from him. I think it was 45 minutes to an hour. Both of us were closer to the opposite store. So I was kind of like, for one, I had only been an assistant manager fully for 2 months without going to the hospital. So I was like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, I was like, I only have 2 months of experience. She's like, I really can't be the one to make that decision. And I was like, okay, what about if I do the high traffic stores? I have more experience there. My metrics are higher, so we can have my manager do the store he's more comfortable at, and we're both comfortable this holiday. She goes, unfortunately, the way that this is running is the official store manager has to have the A store, and while the assistant that's being promoted to temporary has to be doing the B store. So I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, there's no exception they can make here. Like, this is literally gonna screw up both stores. Like, no kidding. My boss was not cool having the mall store. He wasn't great at performing at the mall store. I did most of the heavy lifting to keep the mall store together. He did most of the heavy lifting to keep us all together. I just was his second-hand man at the mall store to kind of help things run smoothly. So now that he was getting the mall store full-time and didn't have me on his side, I was a little worried here. Not even a little worried, very worried. And I had now another store that I, at the time, was very afraid to go to, because most of the people at that store had been under my manager for so long and preferred him, especially one of my coworkers who was really, really liked him. That's all I'll say. And was very, very upset when they found out that I was going to that store. So I was like a mess. I was an absolute mess. I was like, oh my God, this is not going to go well. I ended up getting along with the team and, just explaining everything to them. By this point in time, like, I knew like things were going to be kind of messy. So I was very transparent with the staff from the very beginning as soon as this all started happening. I told them everything that happened in my life. I told them all about the hospital, whatever, the people that I was working with. The person I was talking about before that told everybody was not just telling coworkers, but was telling customers on top of that and spreading lies. So that's why I was angry about that, despite the fact I told my coworkers there. I said, this has not been a good few months for me. I've only had 2 months of assistant manager experience, and to be honest, I've been having the manager train me through and hold my hand through all of that. So I'm gonna need some help from you guys. Anybody who's willing to do it, we'll work together. I will do anything I can for you guys, anything you need. If you start to get overwhelmed, just tell me, and we will work on this all together and work it out. We still have the other guy, even though he's at the other store and we're not allowed to work at each other's stores for this test, we still have the other guy for advice. I'm still going to have him at my corner. So I just need your guys' help. Is anybody willing to step up to kind of take like an assistant manager sort of role, even though we're not getting an assistant manager? As a key holder, would you be willing to take a lot of hours? So one of them stepped up and really did a good job. I'd say they were more qualified than me. If they're watching this video, I think they know who they are. They were much more qualified than I was. And, yeah, so things were going well. I had that person step up, or they stepped up on their own, and basically just helped me run things around the store. I basically told everyone in the store, I said, hey, she's technically not above you, But if she's giving some kind of order, you don't have to call me. Just listen to her. She knows just as much as I do. We had been in the company as the same amount of time. She was smart and said I would never want to go up to manager, which honestly I would have never gone up to manager again after all that. She was smart and said, yeah, I'm not going up to manager for all that. For all the stuff they expect, for the little pay, for stuff like that. And I respected that. So did everybody. No one was gonna let her go because of that. Like, yeah, stay a key holder. You're useful. She was also really good at sales. She was good at organization. She was good at customer interactions. We had a bunch of creeps hit on her at the store, but at least, I had to even jump in a few times, and other people would have to jump in to make sure she was okay. But yeah, overall, she was probably, I'm going to say she was the best employee I ever had in general. Between both stores, I have to say she was probably the best employee across the board, including over management and just everybody. She knew what she was doing. She stepped up and she helped the store. During this point, unfortunately, I was off my meds, like I said, so the mania came back and the depression came back. And by this point, I'm rubbing everybody the wrong way because I am going crazy, and it looks like I am just not competent, and everybody was like, we want the other guy back, and everyone's complaining about it. And the more they said that, the more it got to me. So the more stress I was getting, the more worthless I was feeling, the more just stressful things were. And I'm constantly calling the district managers and being like, hey, when is this test up? Holiday seasons go by. I'm like, when is the test up? Is this going to be over soon? And there was no definitive end date. We were still going on it. It was supposed to only be up to the holidays when they were done on the 18th. But it kept going. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I'm not happy here. I am super upset. I want to be assistant manager again. Everything was starting to suck. And I was just not happy where things were. So, fast forward a little bit. I'm still in my bad state. And I had an argument with a coworker over something that happens. And at this point, I was just done. I was done with everything. I had a little argument that was not even major, to be quite honest. But basically, I got so upset to the point where I said, screw you. You handle it if you think you can do it better. And I dropped my keys on the floor and I ran out the door. And I just walked out the door and started driving. And I called my boss and I said, I fucking quit. I know I didn't want to curse with the monetization, but I said, I quit. It's done. I'm not doing this again. Find someone else. It's over. Tell our district manager, SL2 test is over. It's done. And by some miracle, he convinced me to go back to the store. I was like, okay, all right, I'll calm down. Now, the key holder felt really, really bad about all of what just went down. And basically, we made up and things were okay. She knew I was going through some stuff. She realized it wasn't all me that was there. I wasn't all there. And was basically just like, supportive and became more understanding. And the timing couldn't have been better. I got a call from my district manager saying that the test was over and I was going to return to ASL in a week. And that was a complete awesome thing to hear. I was done. I was happy. I was just done with all the management. It was a lot of work, guys. Store managers, even SGAs or anybody at GameStop to a point, has a lot of responsibilities to do. And with a corporation that really heavily relies on just trying to make a profit because they have nothing anymore, it really can get difficult. It really can get difficult. So it was a mess. It was definitely a mess, and I was getting really stressed out. So I was happy to finally be assistant again. And so everything went back to normal, or at least I thought everything was going back to normal. I was very burnt out from the holidays. So finally, I got to work in my mall store again. I met a new employee that was there that got hired during the holidays. My staff wasn't a big fan of me at that point because of everything they were hearing. They were hearing whatever rumors whatever it was. Stuff was being spread, whatever it was. So I already knew they weren't a fan of me and weren't happy to see me back. So that was unfortunate. But by the time I got back there, I was sitting there and thinking, oh, everything's going to be great now that I had the store I actually want. I was having anxiety like you wouldn't believe. I was depressed. I was saying like, I think I'm done. I think honestly, I can't do this anymore. This is not where I want to be. Like, I'm not happy here. I was already suicidal. I was already just doubting myself, feeling worthless, everything. I was like, this is not where I want to be. If anything is going to change, I have to do something else. So I was planning on going to Full Sail then, again. because for a while I gave up on it. In fact, I did it during the holiday season online and then dropped out due to my craziness that was going on. And I was like, all right, something has to change. I have to make a plan to move. I have to make a plan to just start fresh, and everything will be okay again. So we decided to have a store meeting, brought all the staff together to basically talk about the new changes that happened. And I hadn't told my boss about my mindset yet until this day. So I told him, I said, hey, after the meeting, can we have a talk? So he was like, okay. So everything happened. Meeting went down. We talked about the changes. So I brought him in the back room. I said, I really hate to do this. Unfortunately, I'm just not happy. You've seen how I've been. You saw how burnt out I was getting, how stressed I was getting, how stressed I am now. I think I have to put my 2 weeks in. I really want to change things. And he appreciated everything I did. I still talk to him sometimes. They're going to visit in like March-ish. Him and someone else. But basically, yeah, it was just like, I appreciate everything you did. Let's just get through these 2 weeks together, and yeah, we'll work on it. So at this point, I am far gone. I am gone. Who I was, I was gone. I literally, my mental crisis was terrible. I was going through a really hard time here, and it got to a breaking point. It got to a really bad breaking point. And I realized right then and there that something had to change, that I needed to get help, and there was no time left, because I was literally on the brink of doing something that would have been bad. So I called my boss. I called my coworker that basically helped me the whole holidays, who, by the way, was just amazing during the whole process. I called them up and said, I think I need to go. I think I need to get help, like, now. Like, I told them everything that was happening. And they said, hey, we'll cover your shift tomorrow. And I was like, how about I just end the last shift off tomorrow to give you guys at least a day or two to work with the schedule? So they said, okay, let's do that instead. So I worked my final day at GameStop in New York at the Comac store with a new associate whose only impression of me was that I was crazy because of everything that was going on, who also shared my name. And he knew about my 2 weeks being in and was like, oh, I heard you're quitting. When will that be? I said, unfortunately, today's my last day. And I didn't give him any details. I just told him things are happening, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish the 2 weeks. So I dropped my keys to him eventually. I made sure that I stayed active on my last day, because I was already pretty sure I was going to be non-rehireable if I ever wanted to go back for any reason. So I tried to make it as much of a positive day as possible. I let my district manager know I wasn't going to just treat it like a free day. I really had good metrics that day. I ended at like 30% pro, over 50% warranty. My reservation goals were high. My pre-owned sales were perfect. Everything ended off really well. And she said she really appreciated it and everything, and that she hoped I had luck with my future endeavors. And that was that. It was over. That first experience was difficult, to say the least. I had a lot of fun with all of my coworkers. I unfortunately, mental health got in the way and things became a mess. But overall, my experience there was a good one with who I was working with. The only thing I have to complain about is really what the company was throwing at us that entire time, which I'm going to get into. And I was actually supposed to say this during the policy breakdown and staff changes and all that, but I kind of skipped over it just to kind of give the whole timeline of things. During all this time that was going on, through that time I was working there, a lot of policy changes happened. So the pro membership went up to $25, and what first happened was the $5 coupons that you got every single month for $15 a year is what the membership was. $5 coupons every month, which replaced the 10% off pre-owned games, because they wanted everyone to have the benefit, some kind of benefit, rather than people that basically got nothing but points for buying new stuff and who didn't really care about the pre-owned deal. So they've replaced it with a $5 coupon every month, which had a 10,000 point sign-up bonus on a 5,000 point renewal bonus, or maybe it was a 5,000 point renewal bonus, and so 10,000 sign-up, 5,000 renewal, $15 a year. Super, super really good deal. Those $5 coupons you used every month, you can get free Pokemon card packs. There wasn't a minimum amount you can spend. The only thing that was that they did with the exception, which I understood, is it didn't work on multiple items. It had to be on one item to use the coupon. It didn't just like, if you got like 3 $1 things, you would only take off one item. So that was what that was, which I thought was fair. That coupon you got every month as well was also able to be used on anything. So digital products, physical products, anything in the store, even gift cards. And one of the biggest things we pushed for this membership was that you can get a free $5 Nintendo or Xbox card. At the time, Sony didn't give us codes anymore for a $5 code because they pretty much monopolized what they were doing with their codes and stuff. And yeah, it got to a point where like there was it was just $5 coupons for Xbox and Nintendo. So this didn't really work very well on PlayStation or Steam fans because I think Steam also had a $10 minimum as well, whatever it was. But it brought a lot of people in, especially the Nintendo guys, to sign up to get their free $5 Nintendo code, and that's basically what it was. So then they decided, all right, we're gonna increase the pro membership to $25, and the only added thing they added was a 5% discount on a lot of things. You still got the same amount of points. And everything. They added a 5% discount on pre-owned games and pre-owned accessories, pre-owned consoles, basically anything that wasn't a new game or a new console. You got discounted, which was pretty cool. And for someone who shopped all the time, it was great. I still thought that despite the benefits were really cool, $25 was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. So our pro membership sales went down significantly with this price tag change. And the company was basically trying to get us into the mindset of, oh, we didn't increase the price, we gave more benefits. And I was like, yeah, sure, we gave more benefits, but the issue is, yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow for $25, and a lot of people aren't going to want to pay that, especially if they're buying like a $1 item and we can tell them the benefit they're getting. It was tough. My numbers dropped significantly too. I was in like the 30s and 40s for pro. I dropped down to like 20s, which was still good. 15 was still the goal. The goals never changed, by the way. So a lot of people were tanking because of this new change. Their excuse also was like, hey, we change all the time. A lot of people left when this happened, because they thought it wouldn't be sustainable, especially when we started selling action figures and Funko Pops and all this stuff. But so that was their excuse. I said, all right, fair enough. So I thought, okay, $25. I mean, at least they didn't take away any benefits of it. Oh boy, did I jinx it. So gift cards, the new minimum was now $10. So that $5 coupon you got every month didn't give you a free gift card. Granted, it took $5 off of the gift card, so it still worked very well in that benefit. But at that point, it was people that were coming in for the free gift card were not very happy. So we had already promised them that benefit, and there was no exception at this point. There wasn't a date where this would go in effect. It was in effect now. So it was like, shit. Yeah, we have to tell everybody this. This is going to be a mess. So, yeah, that happens. And so people were upset. And then my metrics went down even more because I was no longer giving free codes. I've dropped down to like 18%, 22%, just barely hitting above the 15% goal, which is what they expected. They wanted you above goal. They didn't even want you at the goal. The goal was the minimum, is what they wanted. They would start firing people in my district if you were slightly below gold. It actually happened to one of my employees and some managers. It happened to my last manager down the line as well. A lot of managers I knew and employees and everything this happened to. They were very, very strict and very fire friendly and weren't afraid to do that, unfortunately. And I thought this was because, hey, everyone is going down on them and everything. I'll explain on that later what I mean. But it truly was a mess. And then they did something else, which was, oh boy, this absolutely killed us. At the very least, they were able to get digital codes at the time by saving $5 on them with the coupon. Out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, one day, out of nowhere, just completely out of nowhere, they literally said, hey, coupons can't be used on digital stuff anymore. No gift cards, no digital games. It has to be on a physical product. And I was like, I just signed up so many people on the membership for the holidays, and they were going to come back during the holidays and use some of those benefits. So I now had to tell every single person that got on the membership that they could no longer get physical codes. And they were like demanding refunds and getting pissed and being like, you can't do that. There must be something you can do. I was like, it's out of my hands. The company screwed me. And I was being honest too. I was like, they screwed me. I was like, they literally screwed me and you. And they were like, how do I get a refund? I was like, after 48 hours, it's non-refundable. They're like, screw this. Like, I'm never coming back here. And we lost so many customers that day. And GameStop's excuse for that was like, what were they saying? They said, those people were never profitable to us anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. But, oh my God, were they stupid by making that statement. The whole point of taking that loss, because their idea was the membership, anybody that pays for a membership comes in like 30 to 40% more than people that don't have a paid membership. So that's why they push so hard on the membership, to get as profitable as possible, get as many people in the door, and have them come back more. The whole point of the loss of that membership was to get people in the door, which would then make them look at other stuff. About like 70 to 80% of my clientele that use that for the codes would buy other stuff when they came in the store that they saw, whether it be games, whether it be accessories, whether it be plush, whether it be collectibles, literally just anything. Literally anything. So there was like a small percentage, maybe 20% of our clientele that just wanted the codes every month. But they would most of the time still buy something else. There were people coming into GameStop after all. So GameStop completely just like screwed everything right then and there. That was the first time I went below goal for a month. My entire GameStop career from 2021 all the way to 2023 and 2024, well, 2023 is when this went into effect, I had never gone below the pro goal, ever. Zero. Never. And then once they implemented this goal, I started going below. I was at like 13, 14% when 15 was the goal. And then they raised the goal to 18%. And I was like, oh my God. You know, I eventually pulled it together, but no one around me was. My manager wasn't. My coworkers weren't, especially at the mall. Things got bad. People were getting fired. Like I said, this was just a huge mess that was going on. And that's pretty much the extent of what happened with the coupons. Eventually, currently now you can get 5% off digital currencies as well. So even though you can't use the $5 coupon on digital stuff, you can still save 5% on everything that's digital. With like a few minor exceptions here and there, but you can still get the... you can still save on digital at the very least, which a lot of people are doing now, and I think was honestly a good move, because a lot of people are moving to Steam, a lot of people are moving to PC. Physical media is starting to, unfortunately, have its downfall, as much as I hate to say. I mean, look how little Xbox games are coming physically these days. It's a mess. So I thought that was a smart move. Hey, even if they don't always buy stuff in the store, they get something like a PS5 digital. We can still get them back in the store for accessories with the points they build up, and they can still buy products from us and get gift cards here as well with the 5% for them to buy games on that, and just get stuff from us all the time, have them walk in the door. The same reason that we were taking the loss on the pro membership, to give them the benefits of getting certain things so they can walk around the store and see other things. That's also why they did happy returns for a while, for people that were... This failed miserably, by the way. They would incentivize them to come in the store to return the stuff, and then we would ship it out for them. Like stuff they ordered from like other sites that were partnered with Happy Returns. They came to us with the incentive, and we were giving the incentive of like giving them like a coupon to save in the store. I don't think I had a single person with a Happy Return ever buy something in the store. Like, it backfired so hard. It didn't work. So the same kind of thing was with the deal of having people walk in the door. That was the reason we were taking the loss on the membership. And unfortunately, yeah, it kind of, to this day, unfortunately, even in my last days of recently, I struggled really hard in pro, like very, very hard in pro. There were times where like I did get above goal for the month, but I think most of my months I was below the goal, unfortunately, which is now 18%. And that was unheard of before. I was doing so well before that. But regardless, that wasn't the only policy that got screwed. Honestly, our return policy was never good. I will not lie about that. Our return policy was never great. The second you open a new game, it's non-returnable. The second you open anything, it's non-returnable. And it's not that it's like logically bad. It's that all of our competition is like the exact opposite. You can return anything with like a receipt. You go to Walmart and open up a perfume bottle, you can still return it if you didn't like it. So it is straight up, the only things you can do returns on that are opened are pre-owned. You can't do any returns on new unless it was absolutely defective. And there was even a point in time where they were telling us, hey, we don't replace it. You call the manufacturer. So that was when, things were a mess. So I will always say our return policy isn't great. I will admit that. Being an employee there, it was never really good, to be honest, at least in comparison to our competition. I thought it was fair. I understood through GameStop that, like, hey, we're not such a profitable company anymore. I understand why they're doing stuff like that, but notoriously it was pretty bad. I thought our warranty policy was amazing. Technically, on paper, we were supposed to replace new products with pre-owned when they broke down. That was what the thing said on paper. But for the longest time, I thought the warranties were absolutely worth it. You bought a new product, you were able to replace it out with something new. Even though technically on paper you weren't supposed to, GameStop never cut down on this. Everybody was doing it. Our biggest sales pitch for warranty that had us so good in warranty were like, hey, you can come in and get this replacement for like $50, like a PS5 for a year. Warranty would be $50. We give you a whole brand new console. Same with headsets. Same with controllers. Same with basically anything brand new. Then GameStop turned and said, by the way, they gave no leadway for this. The thing was in effect day that this was announced, day of. Anybody that got a warranty, even that we promised that we replace with a new product, has to replace it with pre-owned. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad policy, but the issue was that we had already promised so many people, and there were no exceptions. There were 0 exceptions we can make for them, unless we called the district manager because it got dangerous, and we had to make an exception. Or if it was threatening us, or anything like that. That was the only way we could make an exception, when things actually escalated to that point. We would have to call the district manager for the most part. But if things were happening, any exception we made, we had to let the district manager know, like every single time. Like there was straight up no other way to really combat this other than if things got physical or dangerous or anything like that. And it did happen a few times. I didn't ever get into a physical altercation with it. No one threatened to beat the shit out of me, luckily. But my boss did. Someone came up to him and was like freaking out about this is what he wasn't promised and yelling at him and like threatening him. And my boss went to call the manager and the district manager in the back room instead of just making the exception because he was really good. He was like, well, he was really strict to the point. He didn't back down from things, but he wanted to be like, hey, this guy is screaming, threatening me. Can I just push this through? The guy follows him. Luckily, he couldn't get in the back room because it was locked, but he's punching on the door, going like, don't walk away from me, and cursing him out. This is honestly a funny story to me, too, like a little bit more than the dangerous part. He was ringing the guy up and still tried to pitch him the membership and the warranty, like, after all of that, and I wasn't there to see it, but that was the story I heard, and all my coworkers were like, what are you doing? Like, obviously he's doing his job, but it was like, dude, this guy just tried to beat you up and got angry over the warranty. You really think he's going to buy another warranty or ever want to come back? He's like, no, I'm never coming back again. Like, apparently both of those questions, whatever it was. So, super interesting. Very, very interesting policies in that regard that got us screwed. Eventually, they started to kind of make more exceptions for it when they started to notice this was backfiring because our warranty sales went down significantly. But here's the part that I had a problem with. The company wanted us not to say we were replacing their products with a pre-owned. They had us use a word that technically made us not lying, and the word they put in front of it was a working replacement. We will replace this with a working replacement. Customer doesn't necessarily know that means pre-owned, but you can't say that they lied, so that was super misleading. And I told my team, I said, don't do that. I was like, I get it. The company wants us to do it. If you take the fall for it, fine. If you guys are in a situation where you're selling a warranty, be honest with the customer because this can be dangerous. Just like what happened to my boss. I was like, I don't want this to see. This is honestly a danger issue. I would rather see you guys safe and me take the fall for it than and us take a hit on numbers than see you guys get hurt. So that was my outlook. That was also my boss's outlook. That was a lot of people's outlook. But even my district manager, unfortunately, that's what everyone was telling her to do, was telling us to do it like that. And I yesed her to death and whatever, but that wasn't what I was doing behind closed doors. And as a result, our numbers did drop significantly. So 2 major policies that got us hurt. Now I'm going to get back to positive because I talked about policies. I talked about all this stuff. I talked about how the company changed. I talked about how it was getting a little serious with this kind of stuff. So basically I finally moved to Florida. After I got out of the hospital, I was basically doing all my preparations to get me there. My start date for Full Sail was in August. So my plan was to get there by July. That was my plan. What I needed to do though, like I said before, was get help. So I was in therapy. I was doing all this stuff. And obviously I was out of a job and I had some debt on top of this due to the mania. So I needed to find a way to get that all together. Ended up starting my Mercari page that way. I started selling on Mercari and selling some stuff in the collection. And it became really profitable. I was making more money doing that than when I was doing GameStop when I had a big inventory. So that got me all the way through to like September. Like, it was cool. So I did that. Eventually I moved here, and my first day I was here, I had an entire month to basically just sit around, because I wasn't starting Full Sail till like the beginning of August, and it was like beginning of January at this point. So I was like, am I really just going to sit around and do nothing and kind of just be lazy for all this time, or am I going to go out and just, try to do some cool things? As it turned out, my friend Matt lives that I knew in the Guitar Hero community for like 13 years, lives right by me. So we ended up hanging out a decent amount, going out. And whenever I was alone, when he was busy and doing stuff, I figured, I was like, let me check out some places. Let me learn the area. Let me kind of just get used to this place. So I went to the Oviedo Mall for the first time. And I was looking for a retro game store in the area, because I was interested in maybe playing some retro games like at night and stuff. So I initially went to the Oviedo Mall because it said Hudson's was there, but Hudson's actually left before and the map wasn't updated. So I got there. I was like, well, shit, I guess there's no retro game store here. So I was like, I wonder if there's a GameStop here. I'd be curious, because they were already taking retro at this point and had retro stuff. So I found the GameStop there, and I walked in, and I saw my manager, who became my manager later down the line. And I hadn't been in a GameStop in quite a while at this point. So I was like, it kind of felt like nostalgic for me. Like, I went in and everything was good, and the store looked really weird. It looked like a Hot Topic, because it was a Hot Topic back then. So it was styled like a Hot Topic, but it was a GameStop. And I remember my first impressions being like, wow, this is weird. But everything was super cool. It was my first time walking into a GameStop for a very long time. Maybe, like, it might have been my 5th time after I quit altogether, in general. Because I know I went to GameStop for my birthday in June to get Stellar Blade. But this was like my first time going into a store just to go there and check it out. And it wasn't even my intention to go there in the first place. I was trying to find a retro store, but there was a GameStop right there, so I compromised. I went in and looked at a bunch of games. I found some stuff that I thought was pretty cool, some awesome PS3 stuff that was going to work very well. And I approached the manager, and I walked up to him, and I was saying, hey, how are things going? And he seemed to be relatively friendly to an extent. And we were talking, and I said, actually, I used to work as a manager. I was there quite a long time. And I just asked him, I was like, around what time do y'all hire seasonals? And he told me, he was like, we usually hire them like October, November, stuff like that. So that was like in the back of my head. I was like, maybe if you guys do seasonal, I'll keep my eye out. So I shook his hand, we talked. Talked about a lot of stuff, and in the back of my head, this was sort of a joke that I was doing this, was trying to get the job there, because I thought at this point I was non-rehirable because of the fact I left before my 2 weeks, which I was right about, by the way. But for the next few months, I would walk in every once in a while and just ask them if they were hiring any key holders, because I really needed a job at this point. I really did need to get a job. So that was my plan for why I got here so early, to kind of establish here before I started school. So at this point, I was like, all right, I'm still jobless. It's September, my 2nd semester at Full Sail. I need to, like, do something now. So I went in, a few times every once in a while when I went to get games. I was regular there at this point, and I'm still going to be a regular there, by the way. I was a regular there at this point, and eventually one day he called me on the phone because he had my number, and he said, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? And just for the hell of it, so if I ever do have an opening or someone else has an opening, I can give you a good word. So I said, yeah, sure. So we had a really good interview. Basically all it was him just asking me what I did at my other GameStops. We talked about my experiences as store leader. We kind of just talked about our experiences. It wasn't like as much as an interview. It was more so just figuring out how my availability was, which at the time was garbage because Full Sail has a new schedule every month, and they only give you it like a week not even a week in advance. So he already knew that. But whatever it was, so it was debatable whether I was going to get the job at all. Plus, I didn't know if I was non-rehirable, anything like that. So he told me, he was like, hey, I'll let my district manager know about you, and we'll go from there. I don't have any spots open here right now, but I will call you if I have anything available. And like 3 days later, he calls me. He says, hey, I actually now have an opening at my Lake Mary store. One of my key holders just quit on the spot, and I need someone to fill the spot. Would you be interested in working at Lake Mary instead of Oviedo? So I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll go for it. And So he goes, all right, I'll push you to the district manager to do your interview with her, and if all goes well, we'll throw you at Lake Mary. So I said, hell yeah. So like maybe like a day later, I get the call from the district manager, and we're talking. We have a really good interview. I tell her all my experiences from being there. She knows about Full Sail at that point because, you know, we're in Florida, so everyone knows about the school and what their schedules are like. So that was like the warning she gave my manager. Hey, just so you know, his schedule changes. And he was like, I know, we can work around it. Which, by the way, this manager was so awesome. I'm going to talk about it more by the end of the video when I thank him. Just so flexible. Anytime, I was lucky enough to have like all other coworkers that were open availability. Like I was super lucky in that regard. So anytime a schedule change happened, he would just fix the schedule to work for us, and no one else had the problem either. They all were super nice to me. They all like worked with my schedule. So it was super nice. He was super chill. So we already knew about the Full Sail thing. I get another call, and she basically says, yeah, we're going to onboard. Well, my district manager tells me, hey, we're going to onboard you. We'd love to have you on the team. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I got hired. I was like, I guess I wasn't non-rehirable. And then my manager calls me, the store leader. He goes, hey, for some reason your account was flagged. I'm going to look into this. He's like, do you know why it might have been flagged? And he already knew at this point why I left the first time. I told him everything that happened and explained why it might be flagged because I wasn't sure at the time. I really wasn't sure. And he's not really supposed to tell, well, we're not really supposed to tell anybody that they're non-rehirable. But I had a very specific situation, a medical reason, you know. Mental health is still considered medical, I guess. But whatever, I had some reasons. So he goes, I'm going to call HR and we're going to try to sort this out. So not even 5 minutes later, he says, hey, you're on the team. I'm kind of sitting there like, what did I do? Because I was kind of doing this as a joke. I just trying to see how far I can get before they blocked me from being employed. And then I got employed, and I was like, oh, this might not be a good thing, but you know what? Let's keep an open mind. And I got to the Lake Mary store. Let me just tell you now. All the stuff I was saying before about the company, about people coming down on you, about people getting fired, I learned an awesome lesson from this place. Management is important. Management is key, and management will be what makes a place good or bad. My new district manager, absolutely incredible. Best district manager I ever had. I hope she sees this video. I doubt it because it's really long, but I hope she sees this video because I am so appreciative of everything she's ever done for me. She was just super chill the whole time. She didn't come down on us when our metrics were struggling. She overlooked that and saw as long as we were, you know, trying and we were really being beneficial to the company, getting tasks done, making the store look nice, not having transaction errors, not causing issues to the company, like major issues. She would overlook that stuff and give us the benefit of the doubt. She not only... Our district, by the way, performed very well on top of this. So it wasn't like she was so laid back that everything was going wrong like some district managers have been before. She was the perfect mix of a laid-back manager and somebody who can get things done while also enforcing GameStop. She was perfect. She was probably the perfect district manager I could have ever been under. I seriously don't think it could have been possible to be any better. I seriously think there was no way to possibly be better. She was basically perfect at this point. So I thank her to the greatest extent. Coming back to GameStop after having that bad taste in my mouth for such a long time, it all went away. It changed everything. We still haven't been super happy, and I'll say I haven't been happy with some of the things GameStop has done. I am happy that they did cut back on some of those restrictions that they gave us for some of the policies and kind of made it a little more balanced. Because now it's been about 2 years since these new policies went into effect, so nobody that got the warranties previously are now being screwed over. They're getting told all of this off the bat, which is good. So things are starting to get better in that regard. GameStop in 2025 is way better than GameStop was in 2023 and 2024. I will actively say that now. They made their mistakes. I know I said a lot of negatives in the video, but they have seriously fixed a lot of it. They went back to retro. They do a lot of sales now, like genuinely good sales. This Pro Week was awesome with the sales they had on top of the sales they were doing for non-pros. Next week, as of the making of this video, is buy two, get one free for Pro Week. Like, it is doing absolutely amazing. I love what they're doing. There's a few weird things I think they can fix with any company. Every job's got their ups and downs. But one message that I have to spread was that management is everything. They can turn a shitty place into a great place, just like how management can turn a great place into a shitty place. This second experience from GameStop changed my whole outlook on how this job was. Initially, when I quit the first time, I was going to make a whole negative video about it, still thanking my coworkers and still thanking everybody that was around me, but trashing on the company completely. I have to say, this was an amazing experience this second time around. I really had a good time. I really can't say much bad about it. There's really not much to say bad. All my clientele was amazing. It was incredible. I had amazing conversations, made friends genuinely that I talked to outside of GameStop. My coworkers, absolutely amazing. The assistant manager at Lake Mary that ran it for a while, he was awesome. My coworker, the other key holder, was awesome. My manager, the head manager, was awesome. Eventually, Lake Mary shut down, and I got transferred to the Oviedo Mall as my last store. But everything was awesome. I mean, I had such a good experience at Oviedo. Everybody was so nice. There was zero drama. Just zero. Zero drama. Zero at all. There was no issues. When I went through my mental crisis, none of them looked at me any different. They supported me the whole way. They helped me the whole way. They did everything for me. They were flexible. They were nice. They were supportive. I'm going on 2 hours on this video. They were the best people I probably will ever work with. With obviously some people being exceptions than the old districts I worked with. But as a team that I worked in, where we had a full team, it was only 4 people at the Oviedo store and 4 people at the Lake Mary store at the time. Working with them all as a team, this was the best experience I probably will ever get. I love if they're watching this video, I love every single one of you, like, to a big extent. I will never forget any of you. I will always reach out to you. If there's anything any of you guys need from me, I will always be there, because you guys were with me for everything and made just everything so nice. I did some midnight releases. I made some awesome sales. I met some awesome people. I did some amazing things. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I set out to do everything that I wanted to do. I did my midnight releases. I sold some games. I learned about the industry. I learned about the clientele, what people want. I learned basically everything, and then on top of that, I got manager experience. When I came back to GameStop, I came back as a key holder, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I didn't come back as a manager because I just needed a part-time job. But as things have changed now, the reason I left was not because of any bad will. I would have stayed there for a lifetime if it was just a better paying job. That's one thing I'll say, GameStop. Please pay your guys better. Key holders do a lot. Managers do a lot. They deserve the higher pay. So just do whatever you can. Honestly, yeah, this was quite the experience. I'm so happy that I got to do this. And like I said before, I'm not going to say do GameStop. I'm not going to say don't do GameStop. Look in, and when this comes to any job, this is my message. You will make what this job will become with the people around you too, especially management. You will make this place good. We're the people carrying the company. The people above us may be doing stupid things, but the one place that will have GameStop keep its soul is if we are the ones running it. If we're the ones that are really on the front lines just trying to make things great. I hate to not be there anymore, honestly. I loved how my staff, my coworkers were. I loved how my district manager was, and I loved my clientele. They are what made every day worth it, going back to work. It goes the same for any job. Whatever job you go into, good or bad, there's ups and downs for every job. You are the only person that can make a difference in determining whether your experience was good or bad. Like I said, especially in management. If you were calm and collected, and you're nice, and you're lenient, and you're understanding, and you're just all that stuff, it will determine not only your experience, but everybody else's around you. And that's never been truer to me than the team I got this time around. My manager, just so good. So good. Best store leader I could ever ask for. Absolutely. My 2 key holders that I was with. 2 of the best key holders I could ever work with. And then plus some of the other guys I worked with in New York. my district manager, the best district manager I ever could have worked with. They made GameStop an amazing place for me to work. I hope GameStop keeps its soul. I know there have been a lot of changes, a lot of adaptation, because pretty much they have to if they want to stay afloat. Unfortunately, physical games are starting to die. I hate to say it. They might not be all gone forever. They might not be all gone, and we might still get some, but the fact is so many people now are switching to digital, and that's what's causing GameStop to fall. So there's going to be a lot of adaptation no matter what. I mean, we already transitioned to mainly doing cards, like card submissions and grading and trading in and selling graded cards and stuff like that. Collectibles, stuff like that. Services. So that's what's keeping us all together. And no matter what changes happen throughout, I hope GameStop keeps its soul. Really. I really hope it does. I really hope that they stay true to the customer. I sort of like the direction they're going in right now. I think they've really stepped up after 2023 and 2024 and made things a lot more fair. I love the direction they're going in with retro. I love the amount of sales that they're doing per week. I love just how, even though some of their policies aren't great, at least they're not pulling a rug out from under us like they did before. I think everything's fair. I understand why they're doing certain policies. I prefer the old policies back then, but it's obvious that GameStop is losing money. So there's certain things you have to do, and you're not screwing over anybody by doing that. As long as they don't do what they did again in 2023 and 2024, I think things could go well. But to everybody, thank you. Thank you, GameStop, for teaching me everything, for giving me so many skills that I will carry on into other jobs, for just changing my life altogether, honestly. This will be an experience I never forget. I may have had some negative ones here, but the whole outcome that came out of this was positive. It was incredible. I'm going to be a GameStop regular, probably for the rest of my life, as long as you guys are around. I still have my pro membership until 2027, the end of 2027, so I will definitely be around. I will visit my coworkers. I will go to multiple GameStops. I will shop there as my main spot, because, I mean, if it weren't for GameStop, I don't think I'd be here, if I'm honest with you. Plus my fiance for stepping in and really helping me too. But thank you, GameStop. I know I said some negative things in the beginning and complained about a lot, but seriously, thank you, everybody that I worked with. I'm never going to forget about this job. This is going to be, it just feels so surreal that I'm finally out. It's sad. Last time I was happy to be out. This time I really didn't want to leave, but unfortunately I had to move to other things. So that's it, I guess. I guess my 2-hour tirade is over. This is going to be a very long video, and who knows if this is even going to save to my hard drive. I'm kind of a little worried about that, but if this video is up, well, then you know that it did. So anyway, guys, that's everything, I think. I ended off on the highest note I possibly could. My last day was the Legends ZA midnight release. I did the midnight, and I opened the store and left at 4 o'clock. So, yeah, I ended off on a really good note. I brought my Wii U and Pokken tournament to the midnight release, and this was the best way I could have ended it off. So my last bit of advice, this kind of ties into what I said before about management making place better. To all you GameStop managers on YouTube that like to be all grumpy, that like to have your finger on 911 every 5 seconds anytime someone's messing around, you suck. You're the reason why we look like garbage. You're the reason why anyone at GameStop looks like garbage and they laugh at us. You literally are terrible human beings. You have no enjoyment in life. You're terrible. You're awful. You're losers. I'm sorry. You're losers. That's what I feel. I feel like you're absolute losers. It's one thing if they're threatening you and hurting you, but to really just look like that and screw us up, like screw us over like that, find some enjoyment in life. Like seriously, just find some enjoyment in life, because you look like idiots. I'm sorry. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I'm brutal about it. I'm sorry. But every time I see that, it just makes me so angry, because then we get other kids like that are looking for reactions out of us, and then they don't get it, so they leave. So enough with the grumpy shit. Put a smile on your face. At the very least, put a smile on your face. You can be a miserable piece of shit, but at least a smile will make things better. You make us look like garbage. That's one thing I'll always say. Management makes everything, and you managers are why people don't like their jobs, and why people don't like coming to GameStop, and why people look at us like we're all a bunch of grumpy nerds, losers that don't shower. that's all I have to say. Well, I guess I guess that ends it with that loud note. Thank you, GameStop, for everything. Thank you to all my coworkers, to all my managers I ever worked with. I hate to say that all my stores have shut down, minus the Oviedo store. Every store I ever worked at on Long Island is gone. It's very sad to see. Even the Smith Haven Mall one that had high traffic because of the rent issues. Lake Mary shut down. I mean, every store I ever worked at that I was a key holder assigned to is gone. It's so upsetting to see. I really hope there's a future here because I loved working there and I love shopping there. So thank you guys for everything. I say this as a non-GameStop employee now. You guys made everything awesome. Even when the things were strict, you still made things awesome. So thank you for everything, guys. I'll never forget you.